Since NASA, otherwise known as Not a Space Agency, or Never a Straight Answer, allegedly sent 6 successful manned missions to the moon. For these past 5 decades, skeptics and critical thinkers have completely exposed and debunked every aspect of these supposed moon landings, including their disappearing original Apollo video, audio, and telemetry data, their fake photographs, fake moon rocks, studio backdrops, studio props, studio lighting, studio wires, and edited videos. Thanks to mainstream media monopolies and heavy censorship, however, the majority of the population still believes men actually walked on the moon. Now, this week, in a bid to bedazzle a new generation of space junkies, NASA has allegedly sent another craft to the moon. Only this time, the NASA Artemis mission is unmanned and won't even land. That's right, 50 years of technological progress and innovation has passed since the crappy computers we had in the late 60s and early 70s, along with hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars given to NASA since then, and they still don't have the common decency to give us a good old-fashioned moon landing with trained actornauts. The fakery with the new NASA Artemis moon mission, as usual, was present right from the initial launch. Even though they try to pretend otherwise, the old adage, "what goes up must come down," applies to absolutely everything, including NASA's rockets. Every projectile shot straight upwards will eventually begin to arc, form a parabola, and come right back down to Earth, as evidenced by literally every rocket NASA has ever launched. These rockets are always shot with their arc facing the same direction, which just happens to be smack dab in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. NASA says, of course, that the rockets are intentionally making this parabolic course so that gravity can somehow slingshot them into outer space, a completely unevidenced claim which their fanboys and fangirls just accept without question. For the skeptical, critical thinkers among us, however, a careful examination of the photo and video evidence proves that this is impossible. The extreme arc and angle, compared to the relatively short distance these rockets take on their parabolic course, shows they are clearly coming right back down to Earth. This is also apparent by the fact that shortly after the rockets are out of view from onlookers at Cape Canaveral, NASA always changes from showing live, real footage to nothing but CGI for the rest of the broadcast. Anyone watching the NASA Artemis launch live will have noticed the stark contrast from the clearly real footage being received for the first few minutes to the clearly fake CGI footage being shown for the next several hours. For the next several hours, NASA ushered in their usual brigade of high-fiving mission controllers interspersed with truly terrible computer graphics, which they never admit are fake and constantly praise and talk about as if they are watching a live video feed. Nobody bothers to ask why we can't have multiple live videos facing all directions for the entire flight. Why do we only get whatever little snippets NASA decides to share, rather than full, unedited footage from multiple angles for the entire duration of the flight? Even if it could not be broadcast live, we, the NASA taxpaying public, deserve to see the entire journey, unedited, from launch to landing. Of course, we have never and will never see such unedited footage, which would be simple to provide if these missions were real. After a few days, the first images and videos allegedly being sent back from the moon reached NASA, and the following footage is what they released to the public. Many of you can tell just by looking that this is not genuine and is clearly CGI, but many others will swear until they are blue in the face that this is authentic footage. The reality is, though, that it is easily proven to be fake, doctored footage with just a little knowledge of video editing software. By adjusting the brightness and contrast levels, and gradually removing the hues that comprise black from the background, small square artifacts begin to appear around the objects in the video. As you can see, the Earth, Moon, and craft all have these markings, which are only present in doctored footage. In real, genuine, authentic footage, without any manipulation or editing, these artifacts will not appear anywhere, no matter how you adjust the hues, brightness, or contrast. This is a clear smoking gun against NASA, but not the first time they have been exposed for the same trick. The many Earthrise images NASA has released since the Apollo times up to present day have been analyzed and criticized for the exact same kind of fakery. Unfortunately, this important information continues to be swept under the conspiracy theory carpet by the manipulated masses, while charlatan organizations like NASA receive endless amounts of undue praise and tax money. Meanwhile, anyone who attempts to expose and debunk their nonsense is censored and banned. In fact, my previous 2 documentaries on this subject have now both been scrubbed from YouTube, but I will provide links below to
Take a second to honestly observe the following picture and tell me what this looks like to you. If you said a bunch of cardboard, construction paper, curtain rods, gold tape, and foil, you would be correct. If instead you said the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's highest technological achievement, incapable of being reproduced today, the Apollo 11 lunar lander, then you would also be correct. Most unbiased viewers would assume your average high school art class could construct this contraption without much struggle. But official NASA spokesman and astronaut Don Pettit assures us that actually, this 1969 technology is so advanced that even with their multi-billion-dollar yearly budget, they cannot for the life of them recreate it now.
"I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond,"
Don informs us.
"but NASA destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again."
Firstly, why on earth would NASA destroy the original Apollo lunar landers? The historic first crafts that landed men on the moon? The supposed most incredible achievements of mankind, and they irreparably destroyed them so that they could not be replicated even after 50 years? Could it be because they didn't want future generations able to visit museums and see these laughable 1960s attempts at high-tech looking space vehicles? And what other 1960s technology is so advanced and expensive that it cannot be recreated easily and far better now than way back then? Let's take a closer look at this 1960s spaceship and see what else we can notice. For example, look at the paneling here, on the side of the craft. If someone sheetrocked your house looking like this, you would be entitled to a full refund. Yet, with supposedly the best engineers and scientists in the world on the job, this is the kind of craftsmanship NASA provides? Look at the flimsy, haphazard, and careless construction materials and methods used. Look at the buckling, warping, and indentations showing how thin the paneling is. What is this thing? A Twinkie? No, I'm sure it's some super important and necessary high-tech device. Here there are press stubs, and here also has press stubs. But here, and here, they must have run out, so they used gold foil instead. And then over here, they must have run out of gold foil because they didn't bother with either. Look over here, at the evenly spaced lines of gold foil going down the legs, until you get to this point where there is 3 lines right close together. It must be important because it's the connection point to the other crossbars, right? Let's look at another leg. Oh, no. On this one, they are all evenly spaced the whole way down. No 3 lines near the crossbar. Apollo 11 mission controller Harold Loden was quoted saying, "The skin on the crew cabin was very thin, and that was all done because of weight saving. If you really took your finger and poked hard at it, you could poke right through the outer skin of the spacecraft. It was about the thickness of 2 layers of aluminum foil. Project manager Thomas Kelly concurred, noting that the skin, the aluminum alloy skin of the crew compartment, was about 12 1/1000ths of an inch thick, equivalent to about 3 layers of Reynolds wrap that you would use in the kitchen. Apollo astronaut Jim Lovell said, "Whenever I saw a model of the lunar module, it had these rigid sides and looked really strong. Turns out that external portions of the lunar module are actually made up of mylar and cellophane, and it's put together with Scotch tape and staples. We had to have pads on the floor, because if you dropped a screwdriver, it would go through the floor." Apollo astronaut Gus Grissom even famously hung a lemon on the lunar lander just weeks before the mission started. The dictionary describes lemon being a word used to describe things, especially automobiles, regarded as unsatisfactory, disappointing, or feeble. The lunar lander was never even once tested on Earth, landing here from any altitude before supposedly going and successfully landing on the moon. There, this pathetic cardboard and tinfoil construction allegedly fell from lunar orbit at 4,000 miles per hour, then used retro thrusters to slow it down and safely landed without a hitch on the lunar surface. When the astronauts did practice in other training vehicles, 3 out of 5 of them crashed, and you can see here how difficult they were to control, even in broad daylight, on Earth, in optimal conditions. The idea that the actual lunar lander was never once tested on Earth, but then made a perfect landing on the moon, is one small step for lying Freemasons, and one giant leap for brainwashed mankind. This is a 7,500-pound thruster. Look how powerful this is, how big, how much dust it kicks up, and the light it creates. The lunar lander's thruster was even bigger, at 10,000 pounds, and somehow didn't kick up any dust, left no blast crater under the craft, and not a grain of sand on the landing pads, as if it was gently placed down by a crane in a studio. Here we see the lunar lander redocking with the command module. This is clearly fake and made with props, models, and footage similar to the Hollywood creations of the day, such as Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey, created in 1968, the year before the first supposed moon landing. Look at the jerky, unrealistic motions and lack of thrusters being used. The craft is just being turned like a Rubik's Cube somehow, all of this supposedly happening as they both orbit the moon at 4,000 miles per hour. Since many people can't believe this is genuine footage, let me assure you, this is actual, official NASA footage of the Apollo 11 redocking. And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to moon landing hoax evidence. If you still believe man has actually walked on the moon, and rovers are rolling around on Mars, please do me, yourself, and the rest of humanity a favor, and watch my following presentation. Link.
Will each of you give us your estimate of what is the meaning of this to all of us?
You want to try that? After you. I just see it as a beginning. Not just this flight, but in this program, which has really been a very short piece of human history. An instant in history, the entire program. It's a beginning of a new age.
You see it? Do you see the little dot? In the corner of my eye where the tears drain. That's where the tears drain from your eye. Bill, come on. Let's talk. Bill, don't do this.
Are you afraid for the truth to come out?
It's almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars. But it has a lot of variation to it, even just with the naked eye.
I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar earlier what stars we could see. I don't remember seeing any.
The sky is almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar earlier what stars we could see. I don't remember seeing any.
Uncountable number of stars.
About what the sky actually looks like from the moon, the sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on.
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. Deep black.
The sky is almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
Deep black.
You can't see the constellations because the sky is just so alive with stars.
The most unexpected thing, I think, was the blackness of space.
White.
Deep black.
White.
Black.
White.
The blackness.
White.
There with the world right there, and then when you look the other way, it's the whole universe, and the blackness is a palpable blackness. It's not just dark. It's forever.
I don't mean no disrespect, but no way. I can't listen to you, I do this my own way. This is not a game, no, I don't play. And you wasn't game before, so now it's no way. No way. No way. No way. Don't ask me for this, don't ask me for that. There's ice in the safe, get ice if you chat. I might flip my wrist, I might flip a stack. I might steal your chick and then give her back.
We don't. It's flat. The Earth is flat.
The Earth is flat. Space is fake.
The world is flat. Do you understand?